and welcome to the Casual Cinecast, powered by Cinelinx. My name is Chris, and with me, as always, is Justin.
Hey, how's it going?
And Mike.
How's it going? I'm ready to do another Criterion episode. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Too long.
Yeah, we took the holidays off. Sorry, everyone. So, before we get into our Casually Criterion review, we will be talking about the upcoming Criterion announcements for March and April of 2019. There are a lot of them, since we didn't do a Criterion episode last month. Then, we will be doing a Casually Criterion review for Mulholland Drive, written and directed by David Lynch, spine number 779. At the end of the show, we are going to have another poll with a Valentine's Day theme. Ready to pick for our next Casually Criterion episode. So stay tuned.
Yeah, and if you want to vote on the poll, you can go to Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Casual Cinecast, where we will be posting the poll for you to vote. Also, you can, if for some reason you don't have any of those and just want to email us your choice, you can email us at casualcinemedia@gmail.com. And of course, as always, please don't forget to go onto iTunes, give us a review, let us know what you think of this show, let us know that you love it and how great we are. And also subscribe to us on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on.
Exactly. Right? Good advice.
Yeah.
All right. Are we ready to move into the Criterion announcements for March and April of 2019?
Yep. I certainly am.
All right. Let's do this thing.
All right, guys, so for March 12th, we have The Kid Brother, directed by Ted Wilde as a Harold Lloyd film. Also, on March 12th, we have The Magic Flute, which is a Bergman film, which is always great. And then on March 19th, we got Detour by Edgar G. Ulmer. And we also have Wanda by Barbara Loden. So, Mike, what else do we got?
Okay, it looks like on March 26th, we got I Want to Hold Your Hand by Robert Zemeckis. Also on March 26th, we have Japan by Carlos Regatas. Then we have on April 9th, Night on Earth by Jim Jarmusch and Stranger Than Paradise, also by Jim Jarmusch, both being released on April 9th.
What is that, his birthday or something?
I don't know, but it seems like Jim Jarmusch Day. All right, and Justin, what are the final four?
All right, final four start out with April 16th. We have Diamonds of the Night from Jan Nemec. That's my guess.
Okay.
Hold on.
Or Jan.
It's Czech. I don't know. Maybe it's Jan Nemec.
I don't think it's Jan, but maybe.
Yeah. Jan or Jan Nemec, that's either a woman or a man. Who knows?
Probably. But they directed Diamonds of the Night, though.
Yeah. All right. And anyways, on April 23rd, we have A Face in the Crowd by Elia Kazan.
Awesome.
And then on April 30th, we have two films coming out. One is a box set of Police Story and Police Story 2 from Jackie Chan. And then My Brilliant Career from Gillian Armstrong.
Nice.
Is it Elia Kazan or Elia Kazan?
Who knows?
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But
that's his name.
Yeah. You say Elia, I say Elia, or whichever way it was.
Yeah, it's actually the opposite of that. So,
Yeah.
Of all of these, what are you guys most looking forward to? I think I know, but I want to ask anyway.
Yeah. For me, I'm probably most looking forward to the box set of the Police Story films, just because it's something really different for Criterion, or at least it feels like it. Mm-hmm. And I think I've seen the first Police Story, but not the second. And I like some like late 80s, 90s Jackie Chan.
Is there any way that
film?
Is there any way that we can put love into that so we can watch that for February's release?
Yeah. Yeah, does he have any love interests?
Fit the theme of love. Well, I am also probably the most excited about Police Story 1 and 2. I'm also very excited about Facing the Crowd.
Yeah, that's
starring Andy Griffith, which is a really good drama that I saw many years ago. But I remember being very, very good. I think
so different for Andy Griffith.
Yeah, totally. Completely different. He's so unlikable in that movie, which is an odd emotion when you're looking at Andy Griffith. I think what bums me out about this Jackie Chan box set, what happened to Police Story 3, a.k.a. Super Cop, you know? Why cut it off at 2? It feels incomplete.
I wonder if it has to do with rights.
Yeah, it probably does. I'm just saying, you know,
yeah.
Police Story 3's got some great stunts in it.
Yeah. It has a different name, right?
Super Cop,
That's
a.k.a.
right.
Police Story 3. I think it was Super Cop over here, but I think over there it's probably just Police Story 3.
Maybe that's the one I've seen. Maybe I've seen Super Cop and none of
I
the
know
police
you've seen
stories.
Super Cop because I watched it with you.
Oh, okay. Well, then there we go.
It's the one where she ramps the motorcycle up on the train. Like she lands the motorcycle on a moving train.
For real, does it? Not, CG.
Yeah, it's awesome. So, crazy stunts. Nothing not to look forward to there. Is there anything else you guys are looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to The Kid Brother, from the Harold Lloyd film, because I haven't seen a ton of Harold Lloyd personally, but I've seen Safety Last, and that one's great. Like, it's right up there with some of like the best Keaton and the best Chaplin, as far as like just being funny and enjoyable. So I'm looking forward to more of his films and seeing more of his stuff.
And for anyone listening who doesn't know who Harold Lloyd is, he is essentially like a lesser-known silent film star in the vein of Charlie Chaplin or Buster Keaton. He had some really crazy stunts, really crazy movies. He just doesn't get the same notoriety as the other two.
Yeah. But Criterion's trying to fix that, because this is, I think, his third or fourth movie they've put out, so they're making him known.
Absolutely. The other ones I'm kind of looking forward to, I saw Stranger Than Paradise a long time ago and remember enjoying that one. Mm-hmm. But I'd be excited to see Night on Earth as well. I like Jim Jarmusch. He's a little bit odd and weird, but he's always interesting.
I like some movies.
Yeah, I've heard Night on Earth is one of his really good ones, like one of the ones worth watching.
Yeah.
I've seen Stranger Than Paradise, and I have the opposite reaction that Chris does. Like, I was not into it.
It's been a while since I've seen it, but I remember enjoying it.
I've seen it, and I honestly couldn't tell you if I liked it or not. To be honest with you, it's I've seen it though.
There you go. Well, maybe you'll have to revisit it. The only other thing I think that sounds interesting to me is I Want to Hold Your Hand from Robert Zemeckis.
Yeah,
that's kind of an odd one. Looking at it, it sounds like it's kind of well, I guess I wanted to say it was kind of a Detroit Rock City type film, where we follow characters going to a concert, but I guess it's more like Detroit Rock City is kind of an I Want to Hold Your Hand film, because I think that came out first.
Right.
But it follows 6 teenagers who are trying to go to Manhattan to see the Beatles for their like appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show, in like their famous one. But it sounds like it's a comedy.
Yeah, I've never actually. Well, I guess I've heard of it, but I don't think I ever really knew what it was about, or could tell you who's in it. Yeah. So that's actually
Nancy
really interesting.
Allen.
Okay, there you go.
That's the actress I know who's listed here on the Criterion website.
Interesting.
But
does she have top billing?
I don't know. Well, they don't like list actresses. It's just it has new interview with actors Nancy Allen and Mark McClure.
On IMDb, she's top billed.
Oh, there you go.
Nice.
Yeah, pre Back to the Future Robert Zemeckis too. That'd be interesting.
That would be interesting.
And this is like the kind of like film that's right up my alley, being like kind of about music, kind of a comedy. Seems like it might be sort of like teenage coming of age type story. Mm-hmm. It just sounds really interesting. And honestly, I'd not really heard of it before I saw this release.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that.
All right, cool. So that is March and April 2019. Lots of good Criterions coming out.
Definitely.
All right. Guys, I think it's time to move into our review of Mulholland Drive. What say you?
I'm going to have to wake up first.
I'll never be ready. I need to watch the film about 6 more times, and then I think I can.
All right. And on that note, let's do it.
I can't believe it. I'm just so excited to be here. I'm in this tree place.
This one comes highly recommended.
Tree place. What are you doing?
Get out of the car. Yeah. The girl is still missing.
What's wrong?
I don't know who I am.
I wonder where you were going. Mulholland Drive. Come on, it'll be just like in the movies. We'll pretend to be someone else. Silencio.
This is all an illusion.
Okay, so unlike our usual reviews for the Criterion films, since they tend to be older and have been out for a while, we don't do a spoiler-free section, so consider this your spoiler alert. We are just going to go straight into talking about the film with spoilers, so if you haven't seen Mulholland Drive, go watch it, please, and then come back, listen to the episode, and I don't know, it probably will help you figure out what's going on.
For real, because I'm about to spoil you right now. There's a monster behind the dumpster, and it still scares me.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah, I never quite grasp onto when it's going to pop out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, it's not going to get me this time.
Yeah. Right.
All right. So, Mulholland Drive, written and directed by David Lynch, starring Naomi Watts, Laura Herring, and Justin Theroux. The IMDb synopsis says, after a car wreck on the winding Mulholland Drive renders a woman an amnesiac, she and a perky Hollywood hopeful search for clues and answers across Los Angeles in a twisting venture beyond dreams and reality.
All right.
That was my best attempt at like a spooky noise, but I don't think it worked, so I'm not going to do that anymore.
It scared me.
It sounded like the Old Spice commercial more than anything.
Yeah.
And those are scary.
Those are scary.
It sounded like you were just trying to get someone's attention from across the room.
Oh, no. See, even further chases my failure. So, anyways, no more spooky noises coming from me.
That's a relief.
Yeah, I can't make any promises, though. So, I guess I'll kick it off.
Go for it. Good luck.
Thank you. So, I enjoy most of the David Lynch stuff that I've seen. I enjoyed Blue Velvet, Wild at Heart. I even liked Eraserhead and Lost Highway a bit. But that said, I'm not so much a fan of like Inland Empire or some of his short films, because maybe sometimes the narrative just gets a little too loose for me, and I get kind of lost in all that Lynchian moodiness that he's known for, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mulholland Drive, though, I think is easily my favorite David Lynch thing that I've seen, mostly because it feels balanced. I think the film has just enough narrative to stay compelling the whole time, but it can also slip into that uncomfortable, dark territory that he does so well. And it can change gears, I think, multiple times, sometime within the same scene, which is quite a ride. So I think the movie is basically, so I think Mulholland Drive is basically David Lynch at the height of his powers.
Yeah, I think it's like the perfect marriage between a story that you can follow and enjoy and sort of not so much plot-driven scenes and moments and sort of surreal stuff that's intentionally confusing. Like It's got the right dash of that.
Right. Like, I mean, it's a David Lynch trademark to have like that moody, dark, uncomfortable vibe. Mm-hmm. I don't know of anyone else who can just make you more uncomfortable when nothing at all is going on than David Lynch.
Yeah.
You know? So those are my thoughts for now. I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to Justin. What did you think this time watching Mulholland Drive?
Right. So, as you correctly said, it's this time watching Mulholland Drive. This is probably my 5th or 6th time to see this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I agree totally that is... What's that?
Oh, I said same.
Yeah, I agree totally that it's easily the best David Lynch film I've seen. And I haven't seen a ton. I guess I've seen Eraserhead, Inland Empire, and Mulholland Drive, and Blue Velvet. So kind of like the 4 big ones. Well, maybe not Inland Empire. I don't know if that's a big one. But anyways.
I think the biggest thing I haven't seen is Twin Peaks.
Yeah, same. I haven't seen that either. But out of the things I've seen, Mulholland Drive is like far and away his best film. It's one of my like favorite films of all time. Like maybe not in like my top 10 or anything like that, but like if I made like a top 50, top 100, it would surely be in there. I think this film is really, really good. It's one of the few movies that I've watched and immediately wanted to watch the next day. And I think that my first 2 viewings were like within like 2 days of each other. Yeah. Because when it was over the first time, I was just like, what on earth did I just watch?
Like,
and what happened? Yeah. I felt, kind of like, I don't want to say dumb, but I was just like, man, I don't think I got that at all.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
And then it's one that like on repeat viewings, like every time I watch it, it just gets better. It makes a little bit more sense. I'm able to pick on a little bit more parts that like make a little bit more sense, and just like enjoy the ride that it takes you on, and enjoy scenes that maybe I didn't enjoy the first time. And Yeah, it's a wild movie that I don't think anybody can really grasp onto it with one viewing. It's a film that necessitates multiple viewings. And as Ebert said, I believe that watching the good movies again makes them better and the bad movies worse. And that's maybe not true, more true for any other film than Mulholland Drive.
Yeah, I actually have something I want to ask you guys both, jumping off something you said. But first, I would like to hear from Chris.
Yeah, so I first watched Mulholland Drive in the theaters, like as a young whippersnapper. And at the time, just like you guys, I walked out of the theater very confused. This is, when I was first getting into movies and stuff, and I didn't know quite what to do with it. At the time, I thought that, like you, Mike, that he wasn't interested in plot necessarily, but mood. But upon rewatching it, there's a lot of plot in here, and even within the mood pieces, I think that there is plot and stuff to dig out of it.
Oh, so, for sure. Yeah. I didn't say that this movie was all about mood and no plot, for sure. I'm just saying that David Lynch's movies are all moody.
Yes, and that's what I was trying to go off of, but if that came off wrong, I apologize. I think Naomi Watts is asked to do a lot in here, and I think she does it really well and shows a great deal of range in this movie.
Oh, yeah, this is her movie for sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the movie that made her, and for good reason. Oftentimes, the acting and stuff feels stilted from the other actors, but I think there's good reason for that, and it's really interesting to watch. And once you kind of put it together, when the acting is kind of stilted, it's really fun to actually watch, and it kind of contributes to the mood as well.
I think everything like that feels off or that feels confusing is all intentionally so.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's one of the few movies that I can confidently say that, right? Like, a lot of times you see something that doesn't work in a movie and you're like, well, I wonder if that was intentional,
Right.
With this one, especially when it's over and especially upon repeat viewings, the scenes where they are delivering lines in such a hammy, corny way, like outside the airport, it's all so intentional to give you a certain vibe, and then it all makes sense at the end of the movie whenever the last third act, the acting styles are completely different from everyone.
Exactly. Right, and I think the film itself, a lot like Naomi Watts, shows a great deal of range, just like you're saying, Mike. I think the film can be really funny at times, and then also you get those moody, dramatic pieces in there, and then just that sense of dread, that comes with a lot of Lynch films. And I really like this film. I enjoyed it. It's so unique. And I think it's endlessly debatable. So I am super excited to get into the meat of this film. So let's roll on into that.
Okay, real quick. I do have a question I wanted to ask you guys, kind of inspired by what Justin was saying earlier. What did you guys think of this movie when you first saw it versus what you feel now? And I'll go ahead and answer that myself so you kind of know what I'm talking about. I feel like the first time I saw this movie, much like you guys said, it blew my mind. I had never seen anything like that before, especially regarding the third act, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, now in 2019, it seems a lot easier to follow. It seems a lot more simple, like no less masterfully crafted. But the revelation has been done in numerous TV shows and movies since Mulholland Drive, right? The same kind of idea. So I don't think it's as mind-bending as it used to be, but it still is very effective and it works. And that doesn't necessarily make it worse. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying it's not as hard to parse as it used to be, But do you guys feel that at all?
Yeah. The first time I watched it, I was very confused, and so I went and read reviews and like dissections of it so that I could kind of figure out what everything means. But this time, and it's been a long time since I've read those, but this time going through it, it all kind of made a little bit more sense.
There's enough clues to follow.
Yeah. And it actually, just like Justin was saying, and I think you agreed, Mike, but like with repeat viewings, you start to parse everything together, and it becomes easier to follow because you're kind of picking up on stuff that maybe you wouldn't pick up on the first time.
Yeah, I mean... It's weird to say that it's maybe easier to parse now. I feel like that's a result of
seeing it multiple times. Yeah,
so many times.
Right, but what? Okay, let me rephrase it then. Not necessarily can you figure it out, can you parse the movie, But do you think that this twist, if it came out today, it would still be effective, but I think it would be more like a Shutter Island type effect, right? Where like when the final twist in that movie comes, you've seen it before. It's not impressive, but it handles the twist with so much grace that it doesn't matter that you see it coming.
Right.
Like, so
yeah,
do you think Mulholland Drive is still effective in handling that like mind-bending twist, you know?
I think it does if you haven't seen it before or aren't aware of what's going on, or at least like it has a better chance of doing it than like other modern films. And the reason that I think that is because I think that David Lynch gives the audience complete credit on and trust and faith that they'll figure it out. Because Shutter Island, we get flashbacks and like the twist is like really spelled out for you. Like, this is what's happening, right? And David Lynch doesn't do that. Like, I think it's only on repeat viewings that you figure out where the revelation happens. Because if otherwise you might not quite realize that, you know, a twist or a revelation has happened on your first viewing, I think.
Yeah, I certainly didn't.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's the ability to let you figure out that makes it work, right? That keeps me coming back to watch it again and like having no problem watching it again.
Yeah. Yeah, completely.
I mean, also I think it's worth noting too that this film in 2016, they did a poll of 177 film critics from over 36 different countries of the best film of the 21st century. Or they actually did like top 100 films of the 21st century. And Mulholland Drive is number one on that list. And I think it won the previous time they did that too.
Oh, nice.
Around
what
like 2009 or 10. I mean, the article I saw was on Newsweek, but it's done by BBC Culture, which I guess is that's like a website or a division of like the BBC website. But they did a big giant poll. So there's actually this cool list, and we'll link to it in the show notes, I guess. But it's got 100 of the best films of the 21st century, and Mulholland Drive is number one. So
so there you go.
Not just us that like it. So one thing that I want to talk about, and Chris, you kind of mentioned this already, is the vibe of like the first half of the movie before we go to reality. And do we need to set that up for anybody listening? I mean, I assume they've seen the movie, right?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay. So in the first half of the movie, we're in my opinion, in my interpretation of the movie, we are in a dream that Naomi Watts is having. And as you said, Chris, like the acting and the dialogue is also like off-putting, and because it's like kind of cheesy, kind of bad, kind of like B movie-ish.
Yeah, and
like
overdubbed.
There are times, times when it reminds me of like an Ed Wood film. Like it's that like bad at times, but it's intentionally so. And to me, there's like that first like 20 minutes or so after we first meet Naomi Watts, like I think that part of the film is really funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just keeps me kind of giggling and laughing at the whole thing. And I don't know, I mean, I think that's kind of intentional. Like there's a bit of humor in it, but do you guys find that funny?
Yeah, I actually have a couple of scenes written down that I thought were pretty hilarious. And the number one would be the hitman scene, where
something
the hitman
bit me bad.
Yeah. And he just can't get away with murdering one person. He ends up having to murder three people because they keep catching him.
Right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that scene was a lot of fun. And then the other one is when Justin Theroux finds his wife in bed with somebody else.
Yeah.
Billy Ray Cyrus.
Yeah. I thought
right.
that was pretty hilarious. And especially Billy Ray Cyrus's delivery on those lines, like, he's probably upset, you know.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, I think it's really great. Oh, and then there's the other scene where the guy's looking for Justin Theroux's character, and the wife, like, attacks him from behind and, like, does this weird, like, kick on him, and the guy just, like, punches out Billy Ray Cyrus and the wife, and I think I found that really hilarious, too.
Yeah, I love that he comes in and he's just saying his name was, like, Adam Kesher. He's just, like, calling his name Adam Kesher, and then he goes through this fight with the wife and, like, Billy Ray Cyrus, and then when it's over, he just goes, Adam Kesher again, like back to the exact same like tone and delivery and like state of mind he was before he like punched out two people. That's really funny.
Right. Yeah.
Just that first scene at the airport where she comes out with like the two old people and they're just so like over the top, like acting. Like the old lady's like, okay, Betty, we're going to keep a lookout for you on the big screen, okay? And she's like, okay. And it's...
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you guys
so
about
funny.
those old people, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so throughout the first 2/3 of the movie, we are in Diane's fantasy. And where she's fantasizing herself to be Betty. Who did you guys think those old people were? Like, most people in her dream and fantasy are either completely fabricated or people repurposed to fit the dream.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right? At the beginning of the movie, we see that dance, like 50s style dance, you know? And the old people, I guess, were there. And so I took it more as like, they are people from her hometown who believed in her and were looking forward to seeing her on the big screen, you know?
Right.
And so in her dream, in her terrible, dark fantasy, she has repurposed them to be like her parents or her guardians of some sort to deliver her into this big town and, dropping the big fish off in a much larger pond now, you know?
So that's what I used to think about them. I used to see them as like grandparents or something like that, but it was only this time watching it that I started thinking that I think these are just two people that she met on the plane. Like on the plane ride and told about who she was and what her dreams were,
but they were in the original dance that Diane got famous for.
They're like imposed over it,
right? So I don't know. It leads me to believe there's some association with like before she got to L.A.
Well, and then there's the moment immediately after they part ways, and the two old people are just kind of laughing maniacally in the car, in the taxi cab. And that's like kind of a scary moment. You're like, why are they're just going crazy? And there's a little bit of malice to them as well, I think, as they show up and the further on they show up in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. It reminds me of that particular part reminds me of the opening scene to Blue Velvet. If you guys remember that, like where we start out on like shots of a really idealistic neighborhood with like beautiful green grass and like colorful doors and houses and like nice people, but then we kind of go into the grass and then underground and we see like all the dirt and worms and bugs and it gets kind of like gross, I guess, and like creepy.
Yeah.
That's what I get from like that scene. It's like kind of setting you up for what's to come. It's like not everything is as roses as like that scene before this felt.
Right. Mm-hmm. Something's
kind
off.
Of like guiding you through. Yeah.
I kind of have a question for you guys. What is your interpretation of the film? I mean, like without getting too, so you said about 2/3 of the way through she wakes up, but there's fantastical stuff or dreamlike things that are happening throughout the whole film.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, what is your interpretation? You know, it doesn't have to be super long, but that would be interesting to get.
Okay, so like I was saying earlier, I feel like everything in the first 2/3 of the movie is sort of like a repurposed thing from her reality. Mm-hmm. Or something completely fabricated. The scared man in the dumpster. You know, the monster behind the dumpster, right?
Right.
We know why the diner's there. You know, she was in the diner later on in the actual reality. So she's repurposing the diner. And since Diane is imagining this, and it's another layer of her dreams, kind of like Inception or something, right? Mm-hmm. I imagine the man with the monster behind the dumpster, this is all about being able to accept reality. If you see the ugliness that's really there and that Diane has done herself, right? If she sees the ugliness that she herself is capable of, she might just lay down and die, right? Which is ultimately what happens. But I think the man in the dumpster is her worrying that her fantasy can't last forever, that the ugliness is there. And
interesting.
You're not going to be able to escape it for long.
Right. So I want to come back to that in a second, that scene. But as like a general overview interpretation of the film, like on a really simplistic level, I think the first 2/3 are entirely Naomi Watts dreaming / fantasizing and repurposing all these things from her real life into this dream story. And then from the point where after they put the key into the blue box and she wakes up in the bed, everything on that is like real life, and it's out of chronological order. It's all mixed up. That's all real life giving you the reality of everything. So you get to see how all the pieces from the dream really existed, and then think back on like how they were repurposed. Like things like
exactly
the director who stole her girlfriend, like the girl she was in love with, he stole her. So we find that out in the last third of the movie, but in the 2/3, he's getting shit on. He's getting his movie taken away from him. He's
right. And that's like her fantasizing that he
it's
gets his
revenge.
comeuppance. Yeah.
Exactly. And where in real life, the actress Camilla Rhodes in real life doesn't need her. She's just moved on to this director. She's kissing this other girl at a party. She just kind of like has no interest in Naomi Watts. In the fantasy, the first 2/3 of the movie, she hits her head, can't remember who she is, and she needs Naomi Watts.
Right.
She needs her to help her to,
and she can't remember her own wants and motivations. She doesn't even remember like what her personality is. So she's completely dependent on Betty / Naomi Watts, who has repurposed herself to be a bright-eyed, dough-faced girl straight off the bus.
Yeah.
Who could do no wrong. Yeah, and who's probably a better actress.
Well, the one thing that I wanted to go back to is the dumpster scene. I've always struggled with that scene. I've always struggled to figure out what the hell that scene is about, even once I figured out what the rest of the movie was. And your interpretation, I think it makes sense. I think there's multiple interpretations to several things in this movie.
Sure.
But the what I take away from it is we see that guy and he's telling the story of like, I'm in this dream. There's a man around the back and he's, I'm scared and I can't tell you how scared I am. And they go back there and the man is there. So to me, what that scene is doing is letting us know from the get-go, the dream is what's happening right now. Does that make sense?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they said that several times throughout the movie too. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's almost like a signpost to let you know where you are.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Well, and I also kind of, to elaborate a little bit, there is no man in the diner. Both of those men are not in anywhere else in the movie, including the third act.
The one guy
actually is.
The one guy is. He's at the cash register whenever she's hiring the killer.
Yeah.
Okay. Basically, what it leads me to believe is that, like, it's a lot like putting another layer between yourself. Like, it's like taking the dream another step deeper, right? It's like the guilt is up creeping on her. She can't hide from it. It's starting to encroach on the dream like it eventually does. But this is foreshadowing to that. It's saying that...
Yeah.
Because I think the young man basically says something to the effect of like, if I ever see that in real life, I'll just die. Or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And what I think is basically saying is like, Diane knows what she's done. And she's trying very hard to hide from it. But eventually it will make itself known.
Right.
Yeah. So this is my take on it. It's not that different from you guys's, but I don't think she ever wakes up. I think she's committed suicide at the very end, and this is like her final dream as it turns into a nightmare.
Yeah, to be clear, I don't think she ever wakes up. I think we wake up, kind of. I think she's dead. Right, I think this might be a dying fantasy. Like, she may be in the process of dying.
As it gets closer, it becomes more of a nightmare, and the darkness is caught up with her.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of my take on it. And that, especially the body that they find about halfway through is her, and it's reminding her of what she's done already, Yeah,
exactly.
Right. And as far as the guilt creeping up on her, I think one of, like, the things that really unnerves me and, like... Yeah, just creeps me out is the final scene before she goes into, like, the bedroom and shoots herself, like where the old couple start coming under the door and like start chasing her down the hallway. And I think those old people kind of are the same as the dumpster guy. Like, they're the manifestation for her.
Yeah.
Of that guilt and the reason she came to LA and
her hopes and
how it
failures
started. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's like a glaring, like, I'm letting them down, right? Like, they expected everything of me, and what did I do? I ended up putting a hit out on my ex-lover who left me because she slept her way to the top, which is something that Diane wasn't willing to do, or maybe she, but she fantasizes that maybe she could be, like, I don't know. It strikes me as like she wasn't willing to do everything Camilla Rhodes was willing to do in real life to make it, right, in Hollywood, right, like sleeping with the director, etc. So what she does is she fantasizes a scenario to where she was never going to get the part, no matter what, because there was some crazy conspiracy to put some random actress in the movie and skip her, right? Like, Justin Theroux's character has no choice but to not hire Betty / Diane no matter how talented she is or how much he wants to, or, even though she's got it,
Right. And also, that is the girl that she sees Camilla in the real life stuff, the non-fantasy sequences. She sees her kiss that girl at the party.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Melissa George is the actress's name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which she's Camilla Rhodes in the fantasy, who's the girl that this Italian mob is making Justin Theroux pick for the lead in his movie. I think that's just a little bit too of revenge on that character who kissed her love in the party, right?
Right. She's like a mob stooge.
She's not talented. What has she got? Nothing. She's only here because someone's, making him.
Yeah. Otherwise, I would have this part.
Yeah.
I would make it.
Yeah, definitely. We haven't talked too much about Justin Theroux's performance, which I think is
that hair.
Great. Yeah.
That spiky early 2000s hair.
Yeah.
It's pretty rough.
It is. And I think that kind of hair, for him, accentuates as a balding pattern on him.
The thing is, he's not balding. He's still got that exact same hair pattern now. I think he...
Yeah. It's just deep
I was talking to my
hairline.
girlfriend about him. He's actually gotten more handsome as he's gotten older, because I was thinking, Justin Theroux, that's a handsome dude. He's always popping up in movies as the handsome dude, and you know what I mean? But in this movie, I didn't get that vibe from him. I was like, who's this Hot Topic dork?
Yeah, he's super skinny in this. He started working out or something between this and Leftovers, because he's definitely bulked up. I looked at a recent picture of him, and he looks not fatter in his face, but just bigger.
Thicker, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's really great. I think he nails so much of the humor in all of his scenes. And it's kind of fun to just see him get dumped on.
Yeah.
And my favorite scene of his is where he goes to meet the cowboy. I think that scene is so good.
Yeah, that scene's awesome.
Yeah. I was watching on the Criterion edition of this. It's got some interviews. I haven't watched them all yet, but one of them has Naomi Watts and David Lynch talking, and they're talking about how that guy who played the cowboy is just one of David Lynch's friends who's not an actor at all. And the clothes that he's wearing are just the clothes that he owns. They're just his clothes. I think he might have bought them because they were in old actors' clothes, wardrobe or something, but he owns them.
It reminds me a lot.
I think that's funny.
It reminds me a lot of in Boogie Nights when Don Cheadle is just looking very hard for a new look, right? Because why would anyone walk around LA dressed like a cowboy? That doesn't make any sense. Unless you're going for a look, So I just think that's funny.
All right. So since we're on the cowboy, I have to ask you, what is the representation of the cowboy? Does it make sense? Because we do see him, he tells Justin Theroux, if you do the right thing, you only see me one more time. If you do the wrong thing, you'll see me twice. And we see him 2 more times throughout the film. What does that mean? Do you guys have any insight into that?
Well, I think that as far as we know, Justin Theroux only sees him the one time again at the party, if that was even a thing at all.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not sure, as an audience member, the fact that we see him twice again as an audience, is that just cluing us in that Naomi Watts did the wrong thing?
Well, I guess what we have to keep in mind is Justin Theroux meeting the cowboy out there, much like the man in the bar who's scared of the bum. It's just Naomi Watts.
Yeah, I think Justin Theroux could be a representation
of her, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is the cowboy, much like the bum. In my opinion, it's her reckoning with the fact that she knows she's already done the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that warning is basically just supposed to chip away at her, I guess. It's like her own guilt, basically.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I read it.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, do you guys want to talk about the theater scene at all? Because that's
where it
one of the most
changes.
important scenes. It's the turning point of the film.
Right, yeah.
But it's also a scene where we take a lot of time away from the plot and the characters. Essentially, we're just watching the performance and then watching the characters' reactions to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very seemingly has nothing to do with the plot, right?
I think
this is a scene that my girlfriend, my fiance, I got to get used to that still.
Yeah, you're gonna get
my
in
fiance
trouble
and I
if
watched,
you don't get that right.
Right, and edit that part out where I said my girlfriend.
I won't.
Yeah, so she watched it with me, and this is her second time to see it. And we watched it together the first time, and she said that the one scene she remembered very vividly from the first one was that theater scene because she hated it so much. And it was so like dreadful for her to get through. And she said the same thing the second time.
I think that's just David Lynch, man. I think that's his trademark, right? Is just like every now and then he'll drop you into a scene that everything, like your natural movie watching instincts tell you to hate.
Right.
He has weird ambient noise that's too loud and too off-putting. The characters are framed in like a really wide, boring way that like isn't cinematic. Like that's why I'm not big on like Inland Empire, is because Inland Empire is like 2.5 hours of the theater scene.
Yeah,
in Mulholland
that's what I was
Drive.
about to say. This is the most Lynchian thing in this movie, I think, and it's so weird and odd. I like it. I like the weirdness of it, and I also I like Inland Empire, because it's so weird and odd. I don't know that it's one that you'd have to really know somebody to recommend it to.
Yeah. Well, Inland Empire, I could do it if it was an 80-minute movie, but 2.5 hours is like much too long for like a movie that has no narrative. But what I will say about the theater scene is that it's unpleasant, sure, but it very much has this like down the rabbit hole mood about it. Mm-hmm. There's a very clear change in the narrative once we enter that room. Like something is changing, something is different now. And I think to take it to like such like a Lynchian moody place is really smart to transition you into the third act, the wackiness that is about to unfold.
Yeah, I think it's getting you to really think and pay attention, or like ideally that's what you start doing in that scene, and that's what you need to do for the rest of the movie from that point on.
Right. And there's even like a sense of like they're all like the announcer and the singer, they're lip syncing to a pre-recorded audio message, right? So there's a certain vibe of like they can stop, but the performance is already there.
Yeah, it'll keep going.
Much like Diane's fantasy, right? Like the fantasy may stop, but the reality of what she's done can't be changed. It's already there, much like the recording.
Yeah. Well, I think it's that, and also like it's the film again telling you this is all pre-recorded. Mm-hmm. This is all coming from somewhere. Like, they say that like I don't know if this is a true thing, but I saw it in like a short film once that your mind doesn't create new images like in dreams. Like it's all interpretations and variations on things you've seen before. So basically saying like this is all pre-recorded. Like nothing is actually happened. This isn't reality necessarily. It's not happening live. So it's all pre-recorded reinterpretations. It's just kind of like telling you right before we see reality that like we've been in a dream this whole time.
Before we snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity.
It's B-Rabbit. Something.
Mom spaghetti.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, I think we've talked about a lot of the major stuff, but the one scene that I think is the creepiest moment in the film, or the moment in the film that I'm like the most uncomfortable.
More than the dumpster monster?
Yes, more than the dumpster scene. The scene that creeped me out most was the audition scene where she's auditioning for the film, and like she's with that super tan actor, and they're doing this like weird scene. It's so unsettling to me, like the closeness they get, and like I don't know, it seems kind of creepy on his part.
Well, it's because such like a schlocky scene too, where it's like she's having an affair with like her dad's friend or something.
Yeah,
like it's just like it feels a trashy, trashy scene.
Yeah, it just feels weird in the way that they play it and like how close they are.
Do you think that has something to do with her fantasizing that she's capable of kind of doing what the actual Camilla Rhodes did? Which is like use her sex to further herself instead of just her acting abilities?
Right.
Well, I think the acting abilities she's amazing at, and so maybe it's a combination of the two. But I remember specifically in the first time I watched this, that was where I was like, "Oh wow, she's a really great actress," because she's been playing this other thing, and then all of a sudden she can play this, really dramatic thing, and her range is so good. But yeah, I can definitely get a sense of uncomfortableness in that.
Yeah, and it's for the first 2/3 of the movie when we're in like Diane's fantasy, that's the best acting for the first 2/3 of the movie, which I think is really funny and intentional. I think it's kind of like rubbing it in your face a bit of like, we can do good acting.
Yeah.
Just so you know. And maybe now you can think about, rather than disliking the acting or thinking it's bad, now you know that we know what good acting is, and therefore we know that this other stuff is bad. So think about it instead of dismissing it.
I actually really thought turned a corner, Coco, her landlord. So in the first 2/3 of the movie, she's all sorts of she's really bad, and then there's a scene towards the end at the dinner scene, and she's really good, like just natural and everything. And I was like, whoa, she's actually really good, and it was really surprising. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's all I have.
Yeah, we could go on forever, but it's so open to interpretation.
Yeah,
that
it's infinitely dissectable.
Sure, yeah. We could probably do another episode on this film.
We probably
and talk
could.
about none of the same things.
Yeah, we could even do a follow-up. So if you guys listen to this episode and you think, oh man, you guys didn't talk about this, or you didn't talk about X or Y or Z, like all my favorite parts of this movie, or you missed something, you idiots, let us know. On the next Casually Criterion episode, we can do a listener feedback section. Who knows?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but don't call us idiots, please.
Well, call Chris an idiot.
That's mean.
Well, no, that'd be the...
No, don't do it. He's very sensitive. You can call me an idiot if you want to.
No, don't call anyone an idiot. Yeah. Let's give some life advice.
Yeah. You know what? Scratch that. Put kindness out in the world only.
Yeah. There we go.
Leave the world a better place than you found it.
Exactly.
That's beautiful. Isn't that really the theme of Mulholland Drive?
Yeah, that's what someone should have told that to
really
Naomi
what
Watts'
David Lynch
character.
is trying to say? When you break it down.
Yeah. Yeah. Have either of you guys, just quick sidebar, watched the Blu-ray, the Criterion Blu-ray of this?
No, I haven't actually seen the Criterion version of this. Every version I've seen has been like on DVD or not the Criterion version.
Yeah, I'm with Mike.
Yeah, well, you saw it in theaters, Chris, so I guess you saw it probably in a pretty good-looking format, but I got to say, I think the Blu-ray is really good-looking. As someone like Mike, I've watched it on DVD every other time until this one, and it's good looking.
There are some things that I think are good looking, and there are certain scenes that I just feel like the colors aren't as good as maybe they could be. Like, I feel like Blue Velvet looks better than this movie, and that movie came out in the 80s.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Richer colors. Like, this one seems very blown out. It looks like a 90s movie. For sure.
The good thing with this film, though, is you can chalk it up to intention.
Exactly. You can just chalk everything you're not sure about up into like intention.
Yeah. Well, that's the case for the fantasy section. That's kind of B-movie-ish, kind of
sure, which is the first 2/3 of the movie.
Yeah, but some of the stuff, like once we come out, like of Diane in her apartment and them like have a totally different look. That's genuinely like really beautiful. Yeah, and like really interesting looking.
There's one shot that I absolutely love. It's actually used on a few posters. It's like Naomi Watts standing against a wall, and she's like lit by red and green light. And she's got like a nightgown on and she's on the phone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is probably my favorite shot in the whole movie.
Yeah. I think my favorite is the one that's looking, it's like slightly above them when they're in the theater. And they've, Laura Herring has the blonde wig on, and it's like really shallow depth of field. And kind of like just their eyes are in focus. Mm-hmm. It's that shot just gets me every time. It's so beautiful.
And they both have such expressive eyes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So are we ready to move into our poll to choose the next criterion?
Yeah, let's do it. So that concludes our review of Mulholland Drive. Thanks for sticking it out with us. We appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed it.
Me too.
Yeah. All right.
I enjoyed it.
Me too.
That's worth something.
Me too. All right. So, guys, are we ready to choose our next Criterion movies to put out in the poll?
Yeah,
it's my favorite time of the month.
All right, let's do it. So, again, this poll is going to be on social media, on Twitter and Facebook for a while, and this will help determine which movie we do for the next Casually Criterion in February. And Justin, why don't you tell them about the theme we chose?
Sure, and being February, we thought we'd go with a Valentine's Day related theme, or just, love in general, romance in general. So that's the theme for all of our films. So, Mike, do you want to do your film?
Absolutely. So I am going to put the first option out there as one of my favorite love stories. It's quirky. It features an actor that I don't like in almost anything else.
Harsh.
Maybe a couple things. And that is Paul Thomas Anderson's Punch Drunk Love, starring Adam Sandler.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent choice.
Justin, what you got?
Yeah, so I'm going with a film that I actually just watched recently and has come out on Criterion recently, but I'd be super stoked to watch it again because it's just such an enjoyable film. There's a whole lot of different examples of love that go throughout this film beyond just like a romantic love, but it also contains one of the most like romantic fairy tale love stories that I can think of in the collection, and that is The Princess Bride.
Yeah,
Nice.
That's a unique choice for the Criterion Collection for sure, so that makes it even more exciting.
Yeah, and it's I can say, having watched it just recently, it's so fantastic. And
yeah, I honestly kind of hope this wins because I haven't seen it, I don't know, since you and I lived together the first time, right? And that was like 2006.
Yeah, it was like 12, 13 years ago.
Yeah, so I need to see this movie again for sure.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
All right, Chris.
Yeah, so I'm kind of rolling the dice on this one because typically I don't like this director very much.
Wait, have you never seen this movie?
I have never seen this movie. Yeah, so I picked one that I have not seen, and that's Wong Kar-wai's In the Mood for Love. I hear great things. I do like Chungking Express all right, but I just have a hard time with Wong Kar-wai.
Did you ever see My Blueberry Nights with Nora Jones?
Oh, yes.
And Jude Law?
That's kind of the first one that made me dislike Wong Kar-wai.
Yeah.
The other one is The Grandmaster. Have you guys seen The Grandmaster?
No, I didn't want to because I saw Ip Man 1 and 2, and I was like, I don't need this movie.
Yeah, The Grandmaster. Right. Wong Kar-wai has this style that that kind of rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, that like
it's a little bit. You can see a little bit. Yeah, a little bit of it is in like Chungking Express, but not enough to annoy me. So I do like that film, and I think it's a good story. Yeah, so I'm excited to see In the Mood for Love. Hopefully, there's not a lot of that choppy slow motion in it. But either way, we're gonna, if it wins, talk about it.
Yeah, I love In the Mood for Love. It's been a while since I've seen it though, so
great.
If that one wins, I'm happy. I'm actually really happy if well, obviously one of them's going to win, but like no matter what, I'm happy and looking forward to
one of them
rewatching.
didn't win. What if one of them didn't?
Like just nobody voted?
None of them win?
Yeah.
I think we have like a nuclear button that we can press if that happens.
I guess it could be a three-way tie and then none of them win.
Oh, then we have to watch all three of them.
Holy shit.
A marathon episode.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so that does it for this episode, right?
I believe so.
That does it for me, for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. And of course, as always, thank you, Jake Wagner-Russell, for doing our intro and outro music. If you want to hear more of his music, you can do so at soundcloud.com/bopscotch.
By the way, our next episode will be Glass, written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan, which is the final entry into the whatever that trilogy's called. I read it earlier today, but it's actually kind of spoilery, so I'm not going to tell you the official name of that, but just a fun fact, you guys should look up what M. Night Shyamalan is calling that trilogy.
Oh,
it's not just the Unbreakable trilogy. It's actually a very weird name.
Yeah.
You shouldn't even know the name of it until you've seen Glass, I think. But that's just a tease. But anyway, we're gonna see Glass. We're gonna talk about it, and we're gonna see if we hate it as much as everyone else does.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah. Man, I don't even know where I'm trying to look it up right now, and I can't find the trilogy name.
I'll tell you in a minute.
Okay,
Yeah.
Tell me in a minute.
For the rest of you poor suckers listening, get Googling.
Yeah. So if you want to send us your questions or topics regarding Glass to talk about, or let us know what you think about this episode on Mulholland Drive or your thoughts on Mulholland Drive in general, send those on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to @CasualCinecast or email us directly at casualcinemedia@gmail.com.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks so much for listening, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
There's going to be a twist ending on the next episode.
See you later.
Bye.